So in this video, we will be talking about converting from vertex form of a quadratic to standard form of a quadratic, and again from intercept form to standard form. So as we look, we need to remember what vertex form looks like. So remember that is our a times x minus h squared plus k. And in this case, remember that hk is our vertex, and our a value is what we're going to be solving for. So you'll notice that our steps say that using the given vertex, which again will be given to us in the equation, and a point that will also be provided, we will be plugging it into our equation and solving for our a value. And then once a is found, then we use the a value that we found and the vertex hk, which again is given to us, and we write the equation of our problem. And then if we're trying to put it into standard form, then we just expand that out to get our standard form. So as we look at the first example, we have our vertex is 1, -5. So this is our h value and our k value. And this is our x point and our y point. And so again, as we look at that, our equation is y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. And we are going to plug those values in, and the only one that we don't have a value for is a. So as we look, y is -2. A is what we're looking for. X is +2. And again, that's from here. Minus h, which is given to us as 1 squared, plus k, which in this case is -5. And we're just solve it as if it's a normal equation. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. So that's going to give us 3 is equal to a. We're going to do the math inside. So 2 minus 1 is 1 squared, but 1 squared is just 1. And so we're left with a is equal to 3. So now as we write our equation, we go back up to our normal equation. We're going to go y is equal to a, which is 3, h, which is 1, squared, plus k, which in this case is -5. And so that's how we're going to find our equation. If we're going to standard form, then we just expand that out. So the very first thing that I would do is I would take care of this x minus 1 squared. And whether you do that in a box, which we could do quickly, or whether you just expand that out using distributive property. Remember, we've got x times x, which is x squared, x times -1, which is -1x. -1 times x is -1x, and -1 times -1 is 1. So as we look at that, remember that we can combine the numbers that are on the diagonal. And so this equation ends up being y is equal to 3, and then x minus 1 squared is x squared. -1 and -1 is -2x, and then plus 1. And then we have our -5 at the end. And again, we are just doing distributive property with our 3. So we get y is equal to 3x squared minus 6x plus 3. And then we're going to tag our -5 on at the end, and then we need to simplify. So these two are like terms. And so our final answer is y is equal to 3x squared minus 6x plus, also known as minus 2. All right, so that's our equation of our line. As we go to graph that, we can do this a couple different ways. If we graph it using our vertex, just like we did before, we have our vertex point, which we could, if we were asked to graph, we'd graph our vertex point, and then we could graph our y-intercept if we expanded it out. So now as we look at it from a graph, we're going the other way. So we're going to be given the vertex point, which in this case is, what is that? +2, -4. So this is my vertex point. So again, this is h and k. And then we need to pick some other point, and we can pick anything that we know for sure is a point. So we can go all the way down here and use the point 4, -8, or we could use something a little bit closer. We could use the point 1, -5. It doesn't matter. We just have to pick a point that we know is on that graph. So in this case, if I'm not given a specific point, I like to just look at one that I think is a little bit easier to work with. And so I'm going to pick 1 and -5, and then we plug everything in just like we did before. So our equation has not changed. This is a times x minus h squared plus k, and we're going to plug in our values. So again, our y value, so this is our x and this is our y. So our y value is -5. Our a value is what we're looking for. X is 1, h is 2 squared, and then our k value is a -4. And again, we're just solving for a. So we'll add 4 to both sides. So this gives us -1 is equal to a. 1 minus 2 is -1 squared. And again, this is a nice one because -1 squared is just +1. So we're left with a is equal to -1. And as we look at our equation, we have y is equal to negative, and you guys can put the 1 in there or not, x minus 2 squared plus or minus, in this case, k, which is our -4. So again, this is vertex form. If I want to go to standard form, I need to expand that out. So make sure you read what it's asking you to do. So if I expand out, I'm going to, again, do the x minus 2 part out. Hopefully you're going to start running into some things, as well as like when we did completing the square recently, you hopefully remember that that makes it a little bit easier so we don't have to do box all the time. So this is -1. Remember, we square the first term, we multiply these two middle terms together, or what's in parentheses together, and times it by 2. And then -2 times -2 is +4. And again, if you're not quite catching that, remember that we can do the box or we can do distributive property and we'll get that same answer. We're going to expand that or distribute the -1 to everything. So we're going to get y is equal to -1x squared plus 4x minus 4, and then -4. And again, we simplify. And so we have -4 and -4, which is -8. So the green one is vertex form. If it's asking you to go to standard form, then this is our standard form.